Some colleges, actually, you can graduate with an associate's degree and you can graduate with your bachelor's degree at the same time. It's so good, especially if the students are thinking of wanting to go into other areas, if maybe teach or sales or who knows. I spent a lot of time listening to the students, and to me, I felt like that was part of my calling or part of my duty as their instructor. I wanted them to be successful, and I wanted to help them do everything that they wanted to do. It's great working with the students. When they finally get something, you can just see it in their brain and in their eyes. And I think there's nothing more noble than teaching somebody how to do something.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists, episode number 419. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for being with me today. Well, I know you can kind of hear it probably in my voice, but I got that little cold bug. It finally freaking got me a whole 3 weeks into the new year. Honestly, though, I was waiting for it. I have been hearing from all of you, all my friends, that it's been going around, not just the cold, but maybe some more severe things. The last, 3 consecutive weeks I've been traveling. So 10 plane rides and 1,000 dental hygiene students and faculty over the last, well, probably not quite that many, but over the last 3 weeks, it was bound to get me. So yeah, I kind of expected it, but my spirits are high because dang, do we have a good episode for you today. The premise of the episode today was because, again, I don't know, social media, I think, messes with my brain. But I saw yet another post where they're like, I'm thinking about being an educator. I think I've seen that post probably at least once a month for, 8, 9 years, 10 years since I've really been on social media. So on today's episode, I brought on someone that many of you probably have never heard of before. And honestly, that's one of my favorite things about doing this is finding those people who kind of fly under the radar, but secretly they are absolutely superheroes. And so I have on Cindy Gaskill on the show today to talk to us a little bit about being an educator. And I think that her path is what you all are looking for, the ones that are thinking about becoming an educator, because she was a clinician first. She, kind of dipped her toe into it. I don't want to step all over the interview, but she dipped her toe into it, doing adjunct stuff first, and then kind of got more and more involved in the process. And so I think that's kind of what a lot of you are looking for. I don't think a lot of you have, when you're sitting in class in hygiene school, you're like, you know what? That person up there is doing a dang good job. I'm going to go ahead and be an educator because this looks awesome. I don't think a lot of you felt that way. I think actually there was someone, I think the class behind me, maybe she thought that, but not a lot of you, I don't think. The other thing too is Cindy, she's not a lecturer. And I really love how candid she is about her journey into education. We talk a little bit about some of her pathway, of course, but also some of the requirements that it takes to be an educator. And because she's not a lecturer and this wasn't a prepared thing, it really just comes from her heart. And I really love that about her. But she did want me to emphasize that every program, and she says this a little bit in the episodes, but every program is really different in what they can offer, what they require to be an educator. And so you do have to do some due diligence. And another thing she wanted me to focus on and emphasize for you all in the beginning of this was to talk a little bit about the salary, because I did ask the question about hey, what can you expect for compensation? And it's just such a hard subject to answer. And again, since she hasn't really done, salary surveys and things like that, every school, depending on your position, what responsibilities you have in that program, maybe how big the program is, because just like dental school, there are dental hygiene schools that just cost more and they can afford to maybe pay their instructors accordingly. There's regional differences. There's just so many differences that she couldn't just answer them all. And so she wanted me to really emphasize, she's like, she really wishes that she could have given you more on that, but she just couldn't. But if you have more questions for Cindy after you listen to this episode, be sure to reach out to her. She is such an extrovert. She loves people. She wants to hear from you. So please reach out to her. The contact information is in the show notes. And then next week, we're starting part 1 of 5 in our myofunctional therapy series. So just to set it up just a little bit, we have an intro episode next week. Hey, this is what myofunctional therapy is, just in case either you've forgotten or maybe you have never heard of this before, followed by 2 episodes on babies. And I know you're thinking like, dang, I don't want to listen to 2 episodes on babies, but I promise you that you absolutely do. They're really, how many times do I do this to you guys? I don't do a lot of part 2s anymore. We don't do the hour-long episodes anymore, but it was so good that we had to keep going. And so come around for part 1 and part 2. You guys are really going to appreciate that. And then the next one after that is going to be about teens and then adults. So kind of intro and then each of your phases of life. I have on Leslie and Heidi as my guests, but also they come on not only to share their experience, but they kind of co-host a little bit with me. They brought on some of their friends for a couple of the episodes. One's a lactation consultant, another is a chiropractor. And I know what you're thinking, man, lactation consultant makes sense, but a chiropractor? Come on. But I promise you're going to love that episode too. So really all of these episodes you're going to love. They were so much fun to do. It's not something I went into thinking like, you know what, this is going to be fun. And then I was just blown away by how much fun it was. And it's all kind of like a roundtable feel because there's so many of us on each of the episodes. So that's really fun. So I think that is all for me for this week. Special thank you to the team at Dental Hygiene Seminars for giving us space to record this episode with Cindy at their meeting. Special thanks also to Credits, the Central Regional Dental Testing Service, because Cindy was there on their behalf and they gave us time away from the table to chat about this and to record it. So huge thanks to both of those organizations. So without further ado, here is the interview with Cindy.
A tale of 2 hygienists.
Welcome everyone into the episode. We have joined today by Cindy. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
You excited to be here?
I'm excited.
I love when I ask people that and I know that they're not really excited because they're so nervous and they're like, whatever. So,
Yes.
look, this is going to be a great episode. I think, the purpose of the episode that I'm hoping to get from you is really just your experiences as an educator, helping someone who might be considering it right now as a pathway in their future that, kind of giving them some pros and cons to it, give them help them make a better informed decision. That's what we're doing today.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. So I think the first thing is let's just go into a little bit of like your background and your bio. Did you start in clinical practice first and then went into education?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about like where you went to school and like that whole beginning part of your career.
Sure. Okay. I graduated from Central Community College in Hastings, Nebraska, and I worked in private practice for 13 years. I worked in 3 different towns because there was no shortage of hygienists like there is now.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to work full time, I had to be in 3 different offices.
Wow.
Then eventually I just worked in Central City, Nebraska. So I did start some clinical part-time in the evenings in 1985, I believe. So, and then I got a little bit too busy to do that. So I kept working clinical practice and then eventually went back and started doing adjunct when I was working for the state of Nebraska as a dental health coordinator.
All right. You said a lot of things there we need to unpack. So hold on while we
sorry.
do this real quick. No,
Okay.
This is great because I think, working for the state of Nebraska is something I do want to go in before we get into the educational part of it. Tell me more about like the working evenings part. Was that was clinical practice?
That was clinic. No, that was at the community
So it was
college.
education.
Education.
So
Yes.
what was, I don't think that the occasional maybe like extra time that the labs were left open to help us like learn some things. Was that common practice to have night classes?
Mm-hmm. It was at our college. We had each semester, there were night classes for both the first year students and the second year students.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Help me contextualize this a little bit more. So in the first year students and the second year students in your program, did they also have prereqs of anatomy and physiology, microbiology, like all that stuff, just like now?
They do.
Okay.
Or they did, yes.
So then they come into here, and these are didactic courses in the evening, or are these also clinical hands-on?
It's clinical hands-on.
Okay.
So they found it easier to get patients if we actually had a clinic at 4. We saw patients at 4:30 and 6:30.
That's smart, actually.
I know. So, and it was nice for me because I could work my regular job and then still do clinic, because I had an idea that I really wanted to go into education eventually.
What gave you that idea? Like, how were the feelings?
One of my instructors, he was the radiology instructor. He kept saying to me, I think you'd be a really good teacher. I think you would like it. You should try it. You should try it. And then when he retired, I was very fortunate. The dentist I was working for said, Cindy, you can always clean teeth. You need to try it at least. So please, please feel free. I just started working for him, and it was the best job ever. 9 to 5, an hour lunch. I could walk.
Wow.
He paid me the best too. So
that's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
You're like, this is like
crazy.
The dream
I
thing,
I know. And then I'm going to drive 40 miles to teach. But I found it. I love it. I mean, I absolutely loved it. So dental hygiene is just kind of a passion of mine completely, and teeth. So my career's been amazing because I have got to experience private practice, public health, and also then teaching. Yeah. So I feel very fortunate.
We're going to come back to the teaching one in just a minute. Tell me more about this job with the state.
Okay. I was a coordinator, and I was in charge of like the fluoride rinse program in Nebraska. Okay. So I also set up sealant programs. I went to city councils and talked to them about water fluoridation. So those were just some of the things.
So was your responsibility, actually, let me ask this, who did you report to at that time?
We had a dental director.
So there's a dental director there.
Yes.
And your responsibility was to find places to do this on your own, or did they say, hey, Cindy, I need you to go to such and such a location. Hey, this city council's having a meeting and they have fluoride on the agenda. Please go there. What was your role exactly in all that?
A little bit of both. Sometimes it would be word of mouth and people would ask me to come. The schools, we worked really well together with the school nurses also. So the dentist that I was working under really did not like doing the screenings. And so she tried to have me do everything that I possibly could that was legal in Nebraska.
Which you probably loved. You're like, yes, give me more responsibility.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, okay. I loved it.
So what year was it that you were working with the state?
Oh my gosh. I'd have to really think back. I worked 13 years. I graduated in 81, worked 13 years. So that would bring it up to 94. Yeah, so it must have been like 95, 96. I worked 2 years for the state.
The reason why I bring that up is I'm very much more aware of consent in the last 5 years amongst everything that we do as a walking of life. So in the school situations, in the school settings, when you're doing sealants and fluoride rinses, tell me what kind of like paperwork that you guys had to do. Was there anything? Or you just said, hey, we're doing it?
There was a lot. And of course, you got the parents that didn't return it. Yeah. You got the kids that didn't take it home. One school nurse changed it up and said, if you don't want your child to have sealants and fluoride, then send the paper back.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting.
I mean, it is rife with legal problems.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
I like it.
I know.
That's how I would want it. It's so much more efficient.
It is.
But then you're like, yeah, but then there was a 7-year-old who didn't turn the paperwork into their parents like they should have.
Yes.
And then you're like, oh, I guess it's okay. Then they get mad. Oh my gosh,
what
a headache.
You got to be really careful.
Yeah, really careful. No, I bet. So how did you feel about that experience? Did you feel like you were doing a lot of good in the communities? And
I did. Like yes, I did. I liked it. I didn't really like it as much as clinical practice. I missed my patients. You develop such a good relationship with your patients that I definitely missed them. So it was different, but it was good for me to have that experience, because then when I went into teaching, we did a lot of outreach. And so I felt like I knew what I was doing.
I bet. So we had a sealant program that we did in school. I bet you were like just like an ace, like, look, I got this, everyone. I got this one. Let's get into your teaching career.
Okay.
So one of the questions that a lot of people ask now is kind of like, what kind of qualifications do you need? And I look at this question as kind of a two-parter. So hopefully you'd answer both of them. One from like what you've seen lately for, do you need a bachelor's, a master's, a doctorate to be able to teach? And then also from another, actually, let's just start there and then we'll jump into the other one.
Okay. So when I started teaching in 98, you just had to have the degree above what your students had.
Okay.
So at the community college, they got an Associate of Applied Science in dental hygiene. So then I just had to have a bachelor's degree. And it didn't matter really what degree I had. My bachelor's degree is human resources.
Oh,
I always thought that would be something that I could.
so interesting.
I know that
now that I know
could
you
use.
more, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that
Okay.
actually.
Yeah. So anyway, but then after looking into human resources, I'm like, no, I like dental hygiene way.
Really?
Yes, way, way, way better. So my bachelor's is there. And then when I got the opportunity to teach, I just kept thinking, just because I know how to clean teeth, I don't know for sure how to teach. So the college was very helpful. They helped pay for part of my education to get my master's in curriculum and instruction. So
Is that pretty common practice?
yes, it
Okay.
is. It's very nice. You have to keep a lot of good records and you have to get good grades and things like that. But it's a good way. And then, yeah, like I said, I started teaching in, I think must have been 97, 98 is when I started. And just now, some of the students that I had that graduated like in 85 when I was there part-time, they're just starting to retire and sending me notes like, thank you for being part of my education and for helping me and for being a lifelong friend, which it's great. It's great to have them as colleagues. So
That's so good.
as far as, back then you just had to have a degree above, but I felt like I wanted to go forward. Now with the new code of standards, you have to have the bachelor's degree and you have to have a master's degree to be able to teach.
Wow.
And a lot of the program directors now have doctorates. So they spend a lot of time in learning.
You must really love learning if you're like giving it out and also receiving,
Yes.
teaching and then also being taught.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So that seems, I don't want to say it's overkill, but that seems like it's a higher requirement, a higher, barrier for entry for a lot of people because a lot of it, well, I mean, maybe or maybe not, because I think there's a lot more bachelor programs now than there ever have been. So maybe they're already come one more step along the way than maybe back in the day.
Yeah, there's a lot of online degree completion. So a lot of them, which is really, and there's some really good ones too.
Nice.
Really good. I think it's good. Some colleges, actually, you can graduate with an associate's degree and you can graduate with your bachelor's degree at the same time.
Which is delightful.
You do dual courses. Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's so good.
Yeah, it's so good, especially if the students are thinking of wanting to go into other areas, if maybe teach or sales or who knows.
Let me ask this as kind of like a part two to that, because I feel like the qualifications of education, bachelor's, master's, doctorate, whatever, is one thing. But what did you also, or maybe you personally feel, or something that you saw program directors looking for as far as maybe personality qualifications or temperament or other types of qualifications that are out there to become an educator? Because again, all of us are built a little bit different. I mean, do you have to be, we talked about extroverted, introverted.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of great introverted educators, but
There are.
should you probably be more extroverted?
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, I think it maybe helps, but I also think there's a place for introverts too. So I was always fortunate we worked as a team, and not all of us, we all were different. Some were more outgoing, some were more quiet and conservative. Some talked a lot like me, some didn't. So I think our director was looking for somebody that was personable, somebody that was caring too for the students, and also somebody that could stand up to them though, because you get this, mother, dad type thing sometimes when they'll say, oh, well, Patty said this, and Cindy said this. So you get the
Kind of playing against off each other.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to be able to be strong too.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time listening to the students, and to me, I felt like that was part of my calling or part of my duty as their instructor. I wanted them to be successful, and I wanted to help them, do everything that they wanted to do. So I loved encouraging people to go on to dental school and to, keep their life open, because you just never know what's going to be coming your way.
Yeah. Let's talk about first steps.
Okay.
So you came in as adjunct first.
Mhm.
Was it clinical adjunct or was it?
Just clinical.
Is that kind of the pathway a lot of people do?
A lot
They
do.
kind of come in clinical first.
Mhm.
What are, I'm not to keep hammering this qualifications thing, but I'm just trying to think of there's no assessment for hand-eye coordination for some of these adjunct people. Like, how do we know if they're going to be good clinical or not?
That's a really good question. So now, because of CODA, there's a lot of calibration that we need to be doing. And so then you kind of have an idea who's good, who's marginal, and it's a small group of people usually at most schools.
Mhm.
And we took 15 students, so we had 3 full-time faculty.
Okay.
So very quickly who's strong in what area and who's weak in what area. And then we kind of tried to work with that.
I'd imagine it'd be kind of hard. Like, we'll take me as an example of this. Like, I feel like I'm really good clinical. I can do this, all this stuff. And then like the rest, the objective measurements is like Andrew's hand-eye coordination is like terrible. Like, that's got to be a kind of a rough conversation. Like, look, we still want you to be an educator, but didactic is where you're going to be instead of clinical.
It's kind of like being an examiner. You have to be able to be calibrated, and you have to be able to pull yourself in with all of the qualifications that the students have to do, because they have so many requirements that they have to meet.
Yeah.
So,
okay, so you came in as adjunct clinical, and then at what point did you end up being like, look, I'm going to start like. You must have done didactic as well, right? Was there a course?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Did you have one that you wanted, and then you're like, I'm waiting for that person to retire so I can take their course?
Well, when John Hazlip was my radiology instructor, when he retired, then I applied for his job, and there were several applicants, so I was fortunate to get it. And like I said, my dentist said, go try it. And I was very, very lucky. I taught radiology. I taught oral anatomy 1, I believe it was. And then, let's see, it kind of has, it evolved over the years. Radiology, ethics, jurisprudence, that was another one of the classes that I really liked a lot.
Well, you didn't say that though about radiology. Did you also really like radiology? Or
I
are you
do.
like, that's just the one that was open?
Yeah, no, I do like it now. I do like it. And it's kind of funny because I was not strong when I was in school with radiology. In fact, I would try to avoid taking x-rays. And now I'm like, how could you even practice without the radiographs? You have to have them. Yeah, seriously. So, yeah, I do like radiology. The other one that I did like too is oral health education, where what we would do is develop teaching units, and then we went out and did outreach in the schools.
Oh, okay.
So
applying what you're learning.
Yes, exactly. I liked that one too. That was fun.
Because it's like field trips. You like getting out of the school.
And we did a lot of screenings. Yeah. That was a good thing.
Yeah. So as your kind of career went on, you took on more of these classes to teach. At some point, you became full time, or how many years would either you or the expectation from going part time to full time? What does that look like usually for people?
It just depends on the faculty and if they retire or move. A lot of people keep their jobs for a long time. Not so much now with the younger people. I see a big turnover. We saw a big turnover with program directors when I was working for credits. It was
interesting.
It's amazing, when I first started in education, I could tell you who the program directors were, and they didn't change that much. So,
I feel like that was like the pinnacle. That was the top of the mountain. That's what everyone's not everyone's working for, because that's not what everyone's desires are. But I feel like that's like what you were trying to achieve. And once you got that, you just stayed there.
Yeah, I think so. I was very fortunate. I had a really good program director, and I had a really good mentor that taught, helped teach me, because you have no idea. I mean, it's kind of scary going in. And there were some days where I was one step ahead of the students, and that is it. And if they'd ask me a question that I didn't know, I'd say, why don't you research that and get back to me?
This is a great opportunity for some critical thinking.
Exactly.
So you let me know what you find. I'll confirm if it's true or not.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
Cindy.
Oh, dear.
Your secret's out now, though.
I
Everyone's
know,
going to know.
you're right. Or else I'd have to take a break and look it up really quick, and then come back. So it's crazy. But that worked out well for me to be in full-time teaching. I got the summers off with my kids, which was great. We did have a 6-week summer clinic, so we did a hire back. That wasn't part of my salary. I was contracted for so many days a year, but it worked out nicely. If I wanted to, the full-time faculty got the first option to be in the summer clinic. And the nice thing about the summer clinic is there was no preparation. We did do some specialty things like ultrasonics, Gracie's, some things like that, but you didn't have any.
But it was literally just clinic seeing patients?
Just seeing patients.
That's it?
That's it. Yeah.
Was this a all-day thing, or was it half day?
It was all day
Okay.
for 6 weeks. So 3 days a week.
Interesting.
Yeah. That was nice.
I think if you're okay with it, let's keep leaning into some of the benefits of, and I think we need to say kind of some of the negatives too, eventually, if you want to start kind of putting those in your head.
Okay.
Which I know is going to be really hard because you went to the best program ever, but whatever.
That's right. And I taught at the best program ever.
So I want to know like benefits, what's a pay structure look like for someone that's looking, because my opinion is it's probably not going to be what I'm making as a clinical hygienist working full time.
It's not. The one thing that is helpful though are the benefits. That's what really was good for me, was the health insurance, because my husband didn't have that. And then I also got retirement match, and they matched us at a fabulous rate. So after putting in 24 years there, that was a nice little retirement.
I bet.
That's why I was able to retire this last August.
Okay, well, let's talk about dental. I mean, you have a bunch of students. Did you let them work on you? Or did they have a dental insurance that you could go somewhere local?
They had it, but no, I let them work on me, my family, everybody. I mean, if I can't trust them to work on my family, I don't really want them practicing.
I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So time off you had, what about like sick leave or something like that? If you're contracted for, this isn't the number I'm sure, but 200 days a year, what if you couldn't make it to some of those because you got the flu for a week?
As long as you had a doctor's written order, you were fine. And like I said, my program director was always real easy. You know, there were times when I couldn't make something and I would just make it up. But we had meetings on the weekend sometimes, always meetings on some of the days when we don't have students. So it was kind of a little bit flexible, but not every school is like that. You know, I've heard that there are some schools that are very, like their deans and their associate deans are hard to work with. You know,
don't. I have that written down. We're going to be talking about those deans here in a little bit.
All right, that sounds good.
You know, I feel like the listeners are yelling at me right now. I can feel them like through the sound waves. We never actually narrowed down what the expectation for money is.
Yeah.
So what is like a starting salary or maybe adjunct? Like what have you seen around lately that they could probably expect?
Okay, for adjunct, I've seen $25 to $45
per hour or
per hour.
Okay,
per hour.
So you're actually not that far off, depending on where you live, right?
No.
If you're in downtown Seattle, New York, where like you're not going to take the 25, like obviously that's going to be ridiculous,
right?
But you know, if it's 45 and you're in, well, I don't know, a part of the country, I don't want to offend people, but you know, if you're in Florida, where I'm from, 45 is not that bad, right?
No,
so that'd be pretty good for that spot.
Yeah.
Which I would assume they're not offering 45 in those places, but whatever.
No.
What about like full time? Do they have it? It must be salary at that point. You're not hourly anymore.
It's salary, and I am not really good with numbers, Andrew, so I can't tell
That's
you
okay.
for sure what the salary package looked like. I did have health insurance,
Mhm.
and the good thing about Central Community College is they paid for my whole family.
Oh, nice.
Yes, that
That is really
that
good.
was very nice. So
Did they take part of it out of your paycheck like you do normally do? So
No.
it's like 100% paid for.
100%
Oh, that's
paid
a
for.
huge benefit.
So that was a huge benefit.
Yeah, because I feel like right now, I mean, depending on if you're single or have a family, it's not uncommon to pay $800 a month, as your portion of the health insurance.
True.
And then you end up having to pay a bunch of stuff out of pocket anyway, which is ridiculous.
Yes.
Health insurance is broken. So anyway, let's move on to, I want to talk, before we get to the dean's thing, there's an interesting thing that I've noticed, and I want you to tell me why I'm wrong here. I feel like if you're an educator, you're in the inner circle of educators, obviously. Like right here, we're at dental hygiene seminars, right? We're doing our thing. And all the educators, I don't know if you saw that this morning. I don't think they're all from the same school. Probably a lot of them are, but they're all right here in this corner talking to each other, right? We go to any event. You're an educator, like it's your little group of people, like just like you have like an instant connection. You're already best friends. It's like you guys against the evil students of the world. Like it's just, I feel like there's an instant built-in relationship. Is that my perception is wrong?
No, it's right. It's right. And I love other educators that are willing to share their experiences, share their materials. I mean, why not? We're all in it.
Because you're competing for the same students.
Yes.
That's why it's but it's a business.
Right.
So I can understand why you wouldn't be friends, because you'd be like, if I'm your rival school, I'd be like, Cindy, no, I'm getting that student. I'm going to make the money, because dental hygiene school is a business at the end of it.
True. We've never had a problem having full classes, so, and there are some schools that think they're better than others and some faculty, but.
Shout out to Yakima for being better than everyone else.
Yeah. No, Central.
Okay.
No, anyway, yes, Yakima's good. I've been there.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yes.
I'm glad that you confirmed that, because I do feel like that's another, like maybe a hidden benefit that we get from being an educator. Like doesn't matter where you go. There's other educators at almost all the meetings, and you're going to find them, and you're going to be like besties, and you'll have someone to sit with in the classes. A lot of times where I feel like a lot of hygienists don't want to go to like a Chicago Midwinter or some of the other ones, because they don't know a lot of people.
Sure.
And so they go to these classes and they're sitting by themselves in the middle row, and they're like, I guess I'll pay attention to this class.
Yeah. This isn't fun.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
And then they don't go the next time because they don't have friends.
So it's kind of like a sorority, but it's a
honestly, I wrote down here sorority / fraternity.
Yeah, it's
but I didn't want to say that because I don't want to offend people. Like,
sorry,
bunch of partiers.
I know.
Look at you, faculty
right.
just having raging parties on the weekend.
No. Maybe one glass of wine or one beer. Some of them.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
Let's talk the evilness of deans. My words, not yours. I understand that, but I'm gonna pitch a scenario that I've heard several times since I've been working with educators. Okay, CODA has standards. Program loves their students, wants them to be the most well-prepared students to face the world. It's not really even about boards at that time. They just want them to safely work on their neighbors and their family, right? So they say, you know what? I know CODA says we have to have 20 hours of this, but we're going to do 30 because I want them to be better prepared. Okay, the program manager, all the educators like, yep, sounds great. We're going to do this thing. And then the dean comes in, they're looking at budget, and they're like, you know what? You guys have allocated for 10 extra hours here. CODA standard says 20. You guys have 30. I need you guys to get this down to 20 by next semester or whatever. And they go and they really just mess with things because they're not healthcare, even though they're in charge of like the healthcare programs. Talk to me a little bit about some of the frustrations that you've heard. And have you heard something like that before?
Oh, yes, definitely. We actually experienced it too. We're thinking we're helping our students become the best that they could possibly be. And then the college is saying, oh, no. Now, CODA has helped a lot with saying you have to have this. So I know my program director a lot of times would pull out the CODA standards and talk to the dean and the associate dean. So, unfortunately, some schools have deans that have never even taught in the classroom. They've only had meetings and things like that.
Bean counters and pencil pushers.
Exactly. And I also know some schools have deans that are more like, top down. They're Like,
Mhm.
I don't care. You're going to do it like this, yada, yada, yada. And like I said, I was fortunate to work at a school where they backed me up all the time,
Oh,
which was,
wonderful.
yeah. But I have heard stories. I have
So
heard
there is
stories.
that as a major con that I've heard. I haven't really heard too many cons in our conversation so far today. What else can you think of, whether it happened to you or whether you've maybe, because we have a lot of younger educators in kind of our circle that we kind of run
Mhm.
in. What are you hearing from them as far as their struggles as an educator?
They would like to have a mentor, have somebody
Oh yeah.
help them, do things, and just their loads. They have a lot of responsibility. A lot of them teach, more than what CODIS says. That there's some guidelines there, but a lot of the colleges expect you to, keep giving and work
Sure.
at night and work on Saturdays, take the students to meetings, things like that. I didn't mind. I didn't have a problem with it, but I can see where some people would say, especially if they have a young family, I don't want to give up my weekend, or I don't want
Right.
to give up my Tuesday night to come to a SADA meeting or a
Mhm.
Greater Nebraska dental hygiene meeting.
Mhm.
So that's really about the only con. I mean, it's great working with the students. When they finally get something, you can just see it in their brain and in their eyes. And I think there's nothing more noble than teaching somebody how to do something.
Absolutely.
And yes. And they have to be willing, though, to learn and be open to. There's a few students that would
Just
kind of
say,
hide.
I bet those ones can kind of push your buttons a little bit
Yes.
too. I mean, you have to really be able to navigate several different personality
Yes.
types because
Yes, we had to call in counselors sometimes, and especially if there's something rifty and with the
Sure.
students, you have to. So, unfortunately, when you have 15 females, oh boy, it can get interesting.
I bet.
Very interesting.
Well, Cindy, you've absolutely been a delight. I appreciate you doing this for all of those, prospective educators out there. Are you willing to accept emails if someone wanted to email
yes,
you? And what's a
definitely,
good email
definitely.
address for them to send it to?
You can send it to C Gaskill, Gaskill, RDH. So C Gaskill, RDH at Hamilton, HAMILTON.net.
Excellent.
Yes.
So everyone, I'll put that in the show notes so you can just click right through to it. Again, Cindy, thank you for being here. Thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.